Hey guys, it's Jeremy at Online Broadcast Blueprint. It's been a while, so I wanted to come on and show one thing that I think is helpful for folks to know. Now, I've mentioned that if you're using Live 365, it's a best practice to prep your music before you load it because there's really no processing on Live 365. And the way it works, they start at the beginning of your file and it ends at the end of your file. Simple as that. It does not sense when the song ends or anything like that. So any dead air that's in your file, either at the beginning of the song or at the end of the song, will play before the next file begins. Okay. So and another thing is variations in volume from song to song. Okay. Very frustrating. You'll become an expert in waveforms and you'll see what I mean in a minute. But the volume levels from CD to CD are crazy. You know, some are just completely maxed out and they're super loud. Some are really quiet. And so Live 365 just plays those. Okay. It doesn't really normalize or even out anything. So you might go from a song that's really soft and quiet to one that's just blaring really loud. And it doesn't sound professional. One of the things about listening to an actual FM station, and we don't even realize it, we're just used to hearing it this way, is typically they're running through a compressor. An Optimod used to be the industry standard, right? Or like what they call an exciter. There's processing going on that evens out the levels. It gives it kind of that sparkly sound that you notice if you listen to a song on the FM radio. To me, anyways, it sounds better than if you're just listening to it on a CD. And again, it's that compression and the processing that they're adding to it, which Live 365 doesn't have any of that. Right. So it's literally going to just go from file to file. So garbage in, garbage out. So what I want to go over with you today is how I prep my music. Okay. And let me share really quick here. I'm going to share my screen if I do this right. Okay. And I'm not even going to play any sound, right? We're just looking at a wave file. And to be honest, this one looks pretty good. In reality, all I'd probably do is trim up the end of this. So notice I've got a little dead air at the end. Okay. But what is Jerry and the Pacemakers, Ferry Cross the Mersey, a great 60s smash. But here's what I do. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now, this would probably make an audiophile or a music engineer cringe, what I'm about to do. Because to some people, compression is just offensive. It's blasphemous when you compress the crap out of stuff. And I'm going to tell you right now, I compress the crap out of stuff. Okay? Compressor and limiter is your friend in terms of wanting your station to sound like a radio station. If I'm offending anyone, sorry, but that's how I feel. Okay, I'm just in Audacity, by the way. I recommend Audacity because it's free. And for what I need to do, it does everything I need to do. Again, audiophiles, audio engineers will recommend something that costs $400. That's better for sure. But for those of us that just want to run an internet station, Audacity will do more than we will ever need. And it's free. So just get Audacity. So anyways, here's my wave file. Not wave. I shouldn't say wave file because that's a different thing. Here's my, this is technically an MP3 file, but I'm seeing the waveform. Is that what it's? No, it's not a wave. Anyways, you're seeing the track, right? You're seeing what it looks like. I'm going to make it a little bigger. When I say bigger, I mean, I'm going to grow it out a little bit, right? So here's the first thing you want to do, okay, is you want to cut out any blank space at the beginning. You got to have a little bit because you don't want to clip off and this is close enough. I won't do anything at the beginning of this file. So the first thing I want to do, clip out any dead air at the beginning or end. So I come to the end here, I've got some dead air. Okay. And so I don't, I don't want to get copyright. I'm not going to actually play it, but chances are this blurb, I could probably end it right here. I'd obviously listen to it. And if that's something important, I wouldn't cut it off. But for the purpose of this assignment, I'm going to cut all that off. Okay. Because I want it to end right there. Okay. And the levels on this song, here's where I'm really going to offend people. The levels on this song are actually pretty good. I mean, that's probably fine to go right on. And here's what I want to, I set my limits. It'll make sense when I show you here. I'm going to edit it here. So I go up to effect, and here's the things I normally use. I use the compressor, I use the limiter, and I sometimes use the normalize. And the target range I do is -3 dB. Okay. Now I'm going to compress this for this example, but to be honest, I wouldn't compress this. It's fine. Okay. What compression and limiting does is it evens out the levels of the song, right? So the highs aren't so much higher than the lows. It brings the lows up a little bit. The limiter squashes the highs a little bit. So between the compressor and the limiter, it evens things out. And this is why audiophiles don't like it, because you lose some of the dynamics of the songs. When they recorded that song, they meant that part to be quiet. Well, yeah, I get it, right? But I'm running a radio station, and I don't want it to sound like that. I want it to sound like a radio station. And the reason we like radio stations is because there's a lot of compression and a lot of limiting and a lot of processing, right? So anyways, I'm going to pick compressor. Okay. Now, this is how I have it set. Okay. I've tweaked a little bit. You can look at what I've got set up, and depending on your version of Audacity, it might look slightly different. I'm not going to go into the specifics about compression. It's debatable. I just do it to taste, right? I find a setting that I like. The one I currently have is my threshold is -12.3. My makeup gain is 3.7. My knee width is 17.7. My ratio is 1.0. Look, I don't even know what this crap means, right? But watch what happens when I click on it. Okay. Watch the waveform when I click on it. Okay. See how it pushed everything up. Everything got bigger. So what that means is it's going to be louder, right? And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, in this version of Audacity, it's all under the volume and compression drop down. I'm going to go to limiter. Now my limiting, I always limit it to -3 dB. Now -3 dB is kind of an industry standard. I know in audiobooks, because I read a lot of audiobooks or narrate audiobooks, -3 is the magic number. Okay, that's where they want your levels at. And I do the same thing with my music. I set -3 as my level. So I limit it to -3. Now watch what happens to the waveform when I limit it. My makeup target is -3. Now, the higher that number is, well, we'll just play with it and I'll show you here in a sec. But my threshold right now is at -3, and watch what happens when I apply the limiter. Keep an eye on the waveform. Here it goes. Okay. See how it evened everything out. Okay. All the little spikies that were higher than others, it leveled it all out. Okay. And that's great. Let me show you what happens if I play with one of the other things. I'm going to undo the limiter that I just did. I'm going to go into the limiter now. Go to limiter, and I'm going to change the makeup target, for instance. Let's go -5.8. Now watch what happens when I hit it. Okay. Now it limited it and evened it out, but overall it's a little smaller, right? It won't be quite as loud, right? So let me undo that. But that's just kind of shows you how you can change some things there. But notice how my waveform is flattened out, right? Everything's kind of uniform. And what you really notice when you limit it, and the combination of the compressor and the limiter, you won't have such variance. You won't have some songs start really quiet, right? So if you compress it, it brings that up a little bit, right? And then you limit it, and because it brought everything else up, right? When you limit it, it brings the louder stuff down. So the net effect is your quieter stuff is now a little louder, right? So I'm undoing this limiter. Now I'm going to go back in and do it again. And I'm going to, hang on here. Sorry. Undo limiter. Now I'm going to go to my effect. I'm going to go to the limiter. And what did I change before? I changed my makeup target. So I'm going to go back down to what I had, like 3. It was like 3.3, whatever. Okay. Now when I apply it, watch, it's going to limit it and level everything out, but it'll be a little bigger. The waveform will be a little thicker, right? So here we go. Okay. So now it's leveled out. And if I reduce this, you really see the effect, right? And this is what audio engineers drives them crazy, because there's like, there's no dynamics there. It's so squashed. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I want. So that's the way I prep all of my songs, right? I go in and compress. I don't always compress, right? If it's already up around that 0.3 or minus 3 dB, I'm going to leave it alone. I will limit it though. I'll hit the limiter, because what the limiter does will also pump up the quieter stuff a little bit. It just sounds better to me, right? And again, it's kind of subjective. Audiophiles will tell you, oh, you're losing all the dynamics, whatever. Okay. The reason we like radio is because it's compressed and limited and processed. So I will go through. So as you're building your station, I would take the time, and I'm speaking from experience here, guys, because what I did when I started my station, I was just uploading songs straight from my CDs, right? The ones that I burned or the ones that I bought, and I wasn't doing anything to prep them at all. And so what that meant is they're loading, and then the whole file's playing. There's dead air between songs. Some songs are way longer than way louder than others. It just didn't sound like a real radio station, right? So what I've done is I've had to go back in and tweak all the songs, kind of normalize them all, or give them all the same volume, cut out dead air, and then re-upload them. So if you do it before you load them, it'll sound better, and you'll save yourself from having to do it again. Now, the alternative is don't worry about it. And I listen to a lot of stations. You can tell they don't worry about it, and that's their prerogative, right? For me personally, I'm enough of a radio geek that I want that radio sound. I want the compression and the limiter and the processing. I want that. So I go in, and this is what I do with every song before I upload it. And so then I can just save this right back to wherever my file was with the new settings, and it will just replace the old file. And then when I upload it, re-upload it, it'll be to these settings now. So that's a recommendation I would make. You want to compress if necessary, right? But you'll want to limit. Limiting will set it to that minus 3 dB. Okay. And you want to cut out any dead air at the beginning or the end. Do those 3 things at least. And that will help your volume, your levels be more uniform across the board in your station. I would do the same thing with any file. So if it's a sweeper or a jingle or a liner, same thing. I want to limit them all to minus 3 dB, right? Again, and on a cold voice, like recording your voice, yeah, I compress the crap out of that. I'll compress it maybe twice, hit the compressor once, and then do it again, and then limit it to minus 3. That's what gives it that big radio sound, right? We'll do a video on doing your voice. We'll do that in a separate video. But I just wanted to show how you can use Audacity to prep your songs before you upload them to Live 365. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.